Welcome. I'm Dr. David Ballard, the Programme Director for the Forensic Science MSc and MRes courses, and in the next few minutes I'm going to take you through some things that are unique to King's in what we can offer through the courses, and I'll show you a little bit about what the courses themselves will entail. So at King's Forensics, we're very unique in that we have working forensic laboratories within the university. We also have a very large research department, and all of that can feed into the teaching. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, as far as forensic laboratories go, we have 2 ISO accredited laboratories, so accredited to the International Standards Organization 17025, which means that the results can be used in court. We have a chemistry laboratory that specializes in drug testing, and specifically drug testing in sport. So they do a lot of work with the World Anti-Doping Organization. And we have a relationship testing laboratory, a forensic genetics laboratory, which specializes in both complex relationship cases for the courts and also criminal work that is quite unusual. So things like disaster victim identification. In the next month or so, we will also be getting a 3rd accredited laboratory, which is a fingerprint laboratory. The City of London Police Laboratory is moving into King's for the next few years while they have their building redeveloped. So on site, we will actually have working experts from 3 different accredited forensic laboratories who will be able to help you as you go through your course. We have alliances with various people, including the Metropolitan Police, the City of London Police, the World Anti-Doping Agency, and various forensic science providers within the UK and companies outside. So if we've said that the forensic laboratories are very useful into feeding practice directly into teaching, so you can get taught by people that are actually going to court, what about the research? Well, we have a variety of different PIs leading different research. So we have one group looking at forensic biochemistry. This is looking specifically at detection of trace evidence, so very small amounts of DNA, the sort of things that happen if you touch something, and also finding better methods for identifying different body fluids that are found at a crime scene. We have an environmental forensics group. They look at, for example, pollution and drugs in wastewater, but also look at explosives and how we can improve the detection of these in various places. We have a forensic genetics group. This is part of the accredited laboratory. So Professor Syndicum Court at the top, she spends a lot of time in court. And we have various research projects ongoing looking at age of DNA, whether you can age someone from just their DNA, looking at different types of canine and bacterial species to see if we can use those to help us in intelligence work in a crime scene. I run a forensic genomics lab, so that's looking more at how we are moving in the next few years to a different type of analysis for DNA, where we're going to be looking at much more sequence-based work. So we've got quite a lot of work going into that, and I'm on the panel that is setting new standards for these sort of new types of techniques. And then we've got analytical toxicology that looks at drugs in sport, looks at drug driving, and looks at new psychoactive substances. The psychoactive substance group being led by Vincenzo, which is looking a lot at new types of designer drugs that are on the market. So with all that sort of expertise that we have, both casework and at the cutting edge of research, it means that for the teaching, you get the 2 different prongs both coming in. So as far as the teaching goes, we have both an MRes and an MSc degree. So an MRes is a Masters of Research. This lasts for an extra 3 months on top of what a normal MSc course would be, which lasts for a year. This course is fully accredited by the Chartered Society of Forensic Sciences, which is the UK forensic science regulatory body, if you like. Prospective students that come to us, we would expect to have some sort of science background normally. So generally they come from a chemistry, pharmacy, pharmacology, biochemistry, molecular biology or genetics type of background, but the course is quite heavily focused on both chemistry and biology. So it is very useful to have a scientific background of some sort. Otherwise, actually taking the course is going to be very hard for you. The aims of the programme are to build on student existing knowledge of biological and chemical substances, to provide an in-depth knowledge of all key aspects of both analytical chemistry and forensic genetics. That's where the main time will be spent throughout your teaching period with us. But we also have one module that looks at a holistic approach of everything else that happens. So whether that is developing the skills required for assessing and strategizing crime scenes, or looking more generally at digital forensics, for example. We look to provide a theoretical basis for gaining competence in the practical aspects of forensic science. So there will be a lot of lab-based skills that you will learn. And we look to develop specific skills to postgraduate level and to engage students with the ethical and societal debates surrounding forensic science. The programme itself is split into 2 teaching semesters and 1 research semester. So in semester 1, which runs from the end of September to the middle of December, you'll be doing 3 modules in total. You'll be doing 2 modules that last for 6 weeks. One of those is analytical chemistry for forensic science and toxicology, and the other one is forensic genetics. Both of these modules give you the core information you need in those 2 subjects to be able to apply it to forensic science. So we'll be going over the basics in the analytical chemistry module of things like mass spectrometry, GC, HPLC, different types of separation techniques that are used. And in forensic genetics, we'll look at the basics that underpin all of forensic DNA work. So whether that's population genetics, whether it's looking at the particular types of markers we use. And all of this is deliberately designed so that in the second semester, when we talk about more applied things, you have the basis to understand what's going on. The final module in semester 1, module 126, the forensic process. This is the module that takes you through looking at crime scene management, looking at all the other types of techniques you might come across, such as entomology, blood pattern analysis, digital forensics, etc. So the idea of this is that it allows you to have an entire knowledge of the sort of things that would happen in a forensic investigation, so that should, when you leave, you want to go into, for example, be a crime scene manager or be someone with the police directing how things should go, that you would have an idea of the entire process. Or if you wanted to go into policy, for example, at the government civil service type level, again, you've got an idea of the entire process apart from just the very specific technical aspects of the chemistry and the genetics. In semester 2, we will be looking into more detail at the chemistry and genetics. So module 127, the chemistry of drugs and explosives, looks very specifically at how we can detect explosives, how we can determine what types of explosives they are, looking for drugs, how we can do the same thing with drugs, detect them, look very specifically at trying to work out what you've got. So part of that will include a drugs of abuse practical, where each group is given a different substance, normally a white powder, and having looked at all the different techniques that they've learnt over the previous semester, they then have to use a whole variety of different analytical techniques to try to work out exactly whether they've been given heroin or whether they've been given paracetamol. Module 128, forensic biology, looks more into training you as both the possibility of being a DNA examiner, or also all the different types of alternate genetic techniques that there are. So you will have a 3-week casework laboratory where you will be given a case, all completely packaged as it would normally be from the police in evidence bags, different items of clothing, different reference samples, and you will have to come up with a strategy on how you're going to deal with this, what sort of tests you're going to do, where you're going to extract DNA from, what you're going to run, and then you have to analyze it. You have to write it up as a witness statement, which will then be assessed. And then towards the end of the module, so sort of March time, we take you to an actual courtroom Last time we went to Southwark Crown Court on the Thames, where over the course of 3 days, each student will have to go present the evidence that they found. They'll be questioned by a prosecution barrister who will take them through the evidence, and then they'll be cross-examined by a defence barrister, checking that they really understand what they're doing. So all of this very much prepares you that if you do want to go into a forensic science job, that the first time you go to give evidence in court is not going to be quite as shocking an experience and unusual an experience as it otherwise would be. Throughout this, we'll also look at merging techniques. So can we predict how a face will be from someone's DNA? Can we predict someone's eye color just from a sample that's left at a crime scene? We'll look at the new ways in which DNA is being used in sexual assault allegations by looking at the Y chromosome, and we'll look at some things to do with disaster victim identification and how, if we've got very poor quality DNA, we can actually manage to still get an identification from that. All of this will then lead to the final research projects, which will happen after Easter, so in the sort of May to August time. Throughout your teaching, you will be taught generally on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, which means that you have Wednesday free. This allows you time to both look over your lecture notes, do some outside reading, and also, should you wish to engage with any of the activities that King's have, such as sports clubs, various different careers options, seminars, all these sort of different things that give you a more enriched university experience. We also have an online learning platform called Keats. So online, all of the different information that you need, whether that's lecture notes or extra information about particular topics, is posted into this one area that you can have access to. And this is also where you will upload any assessments that you have to do. We work with a blended learning approach, which means that you will have lectures and you will have laboratory practicals, including those very long casework practicals I talked to you about. But you will also have workshops. You'll be put into study teams of around 6 people, which you will stay in throughout a semester. So you'll do your practicals together, you'll be expected to do presentations together, and it means that you have a group of people that you can study with and that should be able to help you go over various different things if you have any questions. We do some peer assessment. We do look at transferable skills, so a lot of what we teach you in critical assessment, for example, can be used in other aspects of life apart from just forensic science. We have mentors and tutors available, and there is student involvement in the course as well. So we do have a staff-student liaison committee where we have regular feedback between students and staff to ensure that everything is running as smoothly as it can be. I said that we have summer research projects. So if you do the MSc, that will be 3 months. If you do the MRes, that will be 6 months. We try to place you into an international laboratory somewhere. So we have every year projects that are offered from forensic laboratories across the world, from New Zealand to America through to Spain. We also have some projects that are offered in London. So should you not wish to travel, you can also do your projects here, either with a police force, with a forensic organisation that's a commercial company, or indeed at the university, should you wish to. Quite a few of these projects, if they are of good enough quality, go on to actually be published as into an academic journal and are then used and read by forensic scientists the world over. And some of these people quite often from their placements get jobs in the laboratories they go to be placed in, or indeed sometimes occasionally go on and do PhD studentships. Once you have finished the course, we have a variety of alumni across the world in various different jobs. There are an awful lot of King's Forensic Science MSc graduates or MRes graduates that are working in forensic labs across the world. Quite a lot in the different commercial companies in this country, or indeed in some of the forensic services for the police, but also in lots and lots of different countries. You can find them leading laboratories in America, in Canada, in Australia, lots of different places. But if you don't want to go into forensic science after you finish, there are also a lot of other options. As I say, you can, for example, go still with forensic science, but rather than as a forensic scientist, you could be a crime scene manager. You could go into sort of policy type areas, but also we have people that take the skills that they've learned, especially things like the critical assessment skills that you need as a forensic scientist to understand the evidence and make interpretations from it, and go on and have very successful careers in things like management consultancy. So there are a lot of different options for you available when you finish. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, then please do contact Kings. Goodbye.